General Hospital spoilers tease that Trina is spiraling into a deep, unnamed emotional wound as she witnesses the crumbling of the love between Portia and Curtis, two people she has loved and admired all her life. What once were silent tensions have now exploded into tragedy, leaving Trina with a wound that won't easily heal. She never imagined that the home she once trusted, the place that had been her emotional anchor through turbulent years, would collapse so brutally. Curtis's decision to end his marriage with Portia is not just a legal act, it's a devastating declaration that their family will never be the same again. Trina feels like she's been swept into a whirlwind with no end, where everything familiar is being ripped from her grasp with no chance to hold on. The sense of betrayal, by Portia's lies and Curtis's cold resolve, throws Trina into inner chaos. Every story, every memory of happier days now replays in her mind like a faded, bitter film. She no longer knows whom to trust, whom to lean on, and perhaps most painfully, she can no longer even identify what she's feeling. Is it anger, sadness, or simply the helplessness that leaves her unable to even cry? Watching her parents turn their backs on each other, Trina feels as if her own existence has lost its meaning, because the love that once bound everything together is now gone, consumed in silence and despair. The air in the house has grown so suffocating that even a glance can spark an argument. Trina tries to appear strong, to act as though she's unaffected, but inside, she's fighting a war not to fall apart. Every day is a new battle, against fading memories, against the pain of abandonment, and above all, against the loss of her own identity in the chaos. Her emotional instability has started to manifest in impulsiveness, overreactions, and a loss of the clarity she once prided herself on. Deep down, Trina is haunted by the thought, if the love between Portia and Curtis, a love she once idolized, a model she held dear, can fall apart under the weight of secrets and mistakes, then what love could possibly endure? That question creeps into her dreams, her thoughts, her actions, making her suspicious of everything around her. She starts pulling away from friends, guarding herself in every relationship, fearing that opening up again will only lead to more pain. This obsession with collapse is not just a temporary emotional response, it's a fracture that's slowly corroding her heart. Trina no longer feels safe, not with others, and not even with herself. Even when Portia tries to reach out and apologize, or Curtis offers his rational, principled explanations, it only makes Trina feel more torn, like she's being stretched between two opposing forces. She can't choose a side, because choosing one means losing the other. And she can't take another loss. She feels lost in the very family she once called her refuge, and that loss of grounding is breaking her down, emotionally, mentally, and even in how she sees her future. She no longer wants to plan, no longer wants to think about tomorrow, because everything feels too uncertain, too fragile. What's even more terrifying is when Trina realizes that this pain is changing her. She's no longer the cheerful, brave, hopeful girl she used to be. In her place is a Trina full of contradictions. Quick-tempered, lost, and adrift in murky decisions. And as the fear of collapse wraps tighter around her, it begins to seep into her mind like a silent poison, making her lose not only faith in her parents, but in herself, in the world, and in what lies ahead. As everything begins to fall apart, the only thing keeping her going is the fragile hope that one day, things will become clear, and she'll find her way back to the version of herself who once believed that love could survive anything. But until that day comes, Trina is left with the silence of sleepless nights, tears that never quite fall, and a quiet, aching grief that steadily dismantles the last defenses of her fractured heart. Trina is drowning in deep sorrow as she faces a brutal reality, not just the collapse of her family, but the constant, pressured upheaval happening all around her. Life, which already felt chaotic, now refuses to slow down, forcing her to confront a barrage of psychological shocks. What truly disorients her is how the stories of the past are being twisted, revised, and exposed in painful, unexpected ways, so much so that Trina no longer knows what's real and what's not. Every time she thinks she understands what's going on, some new detail surfaces that unravels everything, plunging her into fresh confusion and hopelessness. But the most disorienting shift comes with the arrival of Kai. A new presence quietly ushering in strange and intense changes that Trina never saw coming, and certainly wasn't prepared for. Kai entered her life at its most vulnerable point, not just as a distraction, but as someone who forces her to reassess every boundary of emotion, trust, and pain. His actions, his words, and even his quiet but undeniable presence are a constant reminder that Trina's world is no longer safe. Kai doesn't mean to push her into chaos, but somehow, every gesture from him stirs memories and emotions she thought she had locked away forever. And from that, a new obsession begins to form, an obsession with the fact that she is changing every day under the influence of someone she barely understands. Trina starts to sense that something inside her is being reshaped. Her moral compass, her once clear emotions, her trust in love and truth, all are being stretched and bent in disturbing ways. She can no longer tell the difference between being guided and being manipulated. What Kai brings isn't a gentle rescue, but a violent push into a completely new reality, where everything feels blurred and undefined. She doesn't know whether Kai is awakening her, or pulling her into emotional distortion. And it's this uncertainty that frightens her the most. The obsession becomes sharper, no longer vague shadows in the night, but a looming dread as Trina realizes she no longer recognizes herself. She reacts in ways she once condemned, makes choices she never thought herself capable of, and most of all, begins to allow herself to believe in something far too dangerous to hold on to. The change is not just on the surface, it's sinking deep into her, bit by bit, like cracks that slowly become fractures and finally shatter everything. Trina is trapped between the pain of the past, the pressure of the present, and the unpredictability of the future, each feeding the next in a cycle of total emotional collapse. Kai, whether intentionally or not, has become the catalyst for a new version of Trina, unstable, unpredictable, and no longer the girl she used to be. For a young woman who once tried so hard to balance reason with emotion, this shift is devastating. She can't explain why she's so easily swayed now, why her heart tightens every time Kai says something that makes her question herself, or why her extreme reactions are starting to feel normal. She's changing, and the most terrifying part isn't how fast it's happening, but that she no longer knows how to stop it. In the end, what keeps Trina awake at night isn't just grief or anxiety, it's the chilling realization that everything is being altered beyond her control. Her family has changed. Trust has changed. Emotions have changed. And now, she herself is no longer whole. A part of her wants to run, to escape everything and return to a time before it all became so complicated. But another part, the part that's slowly growing louder, is starting to accept that maybe this chaos is who she really is now. And that's the scariest thought of all. Trina doesn't know if she's running from the truth, or heading straight into it. Trina is living through a tumultuous series of days, where everything she once believed in and clung to is crumbling beneath her feet, leaving a vast emptiness in her soul and a vague, persistent fear lurking in her eyes. In the midst of this chaos, her emotions torn apart by her parents' breakup, the prolonged shocks of unveiled secrets, and the constant shifts in her own identity, Trina is suddenly jolted by a rumor. A piece of information so outrageous, so impossible, she struggles to believe it: Spencer Cassadine is still alive. His name echoes like an old wound, unexpectedly reopened. Spencer, the heart, the shadow, a part of her youth she thought she had closed the door on forever. She had hurt so much she accepted his death, endured countless nights racked with guilt and sorrow, trying to move forward, to breathe, to find direction without him. But now, with the leak that Spencer may never have died, that he might be somewhere outside Port Charles, everything she buried flares up again, like fire fed with oil, scorching through every fragile defense she had built. Trina's emotions erupt like a storm. She doesn't know if she's thrilled or angry, hopeful or desperate, only that her heart has started beating to a rhythm at once unfamiliar and heartbreakingly familiar, the rhythm she tried to silence the day she lost him. The idea that Spencer is still alive is more than a miraculous survival, it is a seismic shift that could upend her entire reality. If he's alive, why didn't he reach out? Why let her suffer all this time while he still existed somewhere? Who has been hiding this truth? And more urgently, why is this news surfacing now? It all feels like a violent undercurrent pulling Trina into a new spiral, a new maze, where she no longer knows what's real. But what makes it even stranger, and more dangerous, is the growing sense that someone or something is orchestrating this flow of information. Spencer's alleged survival didn't surface by chance. It came at the exact moment Trina was at her most vulnerable, emotionally shattered, susceptible to collapse at the slightest trigger. She starts to feel manipulated, her emotions and actions nudged along a path she never chose. A new, more subtle and calculated form of control is seeping into everything she encounters. And Kai, the man who has recently become a constant presence in her life, seems to know more than he admits. Kai is a mystery Trina has yet to solve. He brings her new perspectives, mirrors of herself she's never seen. He makes her feel awake, but also makes her question if she's being lured into a world that doesn't belong to her. His cryptic words, the strange closeness interlaced with cold detachment, it all leaves her suspended between guidance and manipulation. And when it is Kai who first reveals the rumor about Spencer, Trina feels breathless. She cannot believe this is coincidence. Too many coincidences are stacking up, creating a new narrative in which, whether she wants it or not, she is the protagonist. The journey to find Spencer is no longer about love. It has become a confrontation with distorted truths, a struggle to reclaim her fractured identity, twisted by too many forces and traumas. Trina knows that if Spencer is truly alive, he may be the missing link in all the mysteries she has yet to unravel, from his own disappearance to the dark motives behind the events plaguing her family. He could be the answer, or the next nightmare. But either way, Trina knows she can't stop now. She can't go on without knowing the truth. She leaves Port Charles carrying a broken heart, a mind clouded with doubt, and an obsession that's turning into resolve. She doesn't know what she'll find. A changed Spencer? A truth more painful than death? Or a trap meant to destroy her? But she knows if she doesn't go, she'll never forgive herself. This journey is proof of her rise from the ruins. She is no longer the girl who feared pain and avoided the truth. Now, despite being haunted by changes, despite being pushed to her emotional limits, Trina chooses to move forward, because she understands that truth, no matter how painful, is worth infinitely more than a beautiful lie. And if Spencer is alive, she'll be the first to face him, not just to ask why, but to find herself in his eyes again, the Trina who once believed in love, and now believes in the survival of courage. Trina knows that finding Spencer is not the end, it's just the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with chaos, complexity, and unpredictability. She hasn't just found the man the world thought was dead, she's now carrying the burden of a high-stakes mission. Bringing him back to Port Charles, where every memory, every sin, every secret and shadow awaits. His return isn't just a romantic gesture, it's a decisive move with vast consequences, one that could shift the balance of hidden powers behind the scenes. And Trina, whether she wanted to be or not, has become the center of it all, the one holding the key to a confrontation far bigger than she ever imagined. She knows that one wrong step could awaken those who have worked hard to bury the truth. People who don't want Spencer back, who have been using his disappearance as a shield for darker agendas. Spencer being alive strikes a devastating blow to the long-standing wall of lies within Port Charles. His return threatens to collapse that fragile order. But it also puts Trina in the crosshairs. She becomes the target of those determined to keep everything buried forever. Every move she makes, every choice she weighs, is now watched, analyzed, and manipulated by unseen forces behind the curtain. Inside her, a new obsession begins to grow. She must not only manage her emotions but control a story spiraling beyond her grasp. Things have gone too far. What began as a girl searching for her lost love has turned into a catalyst for a chain reaction disrupting everything. The truth about Spencer is no longer just their story. It's the spark that could ignite the entire hidden power structure that has thrived in silence for years. And Trina, in her emotional exhaustion, is forced to be strong, focused, and decisive, qualities she never thought she had, especially when her heart is still full of unhealed wounds. But alongside the pressure, another emotion rises, intense, uncontrollable, the connection between her and Spencer now more powerful than ever. After all the losses, the sacrifices, the misunderstandings and the distance, being able to touch him, to see that familiar look, to feel the breath of someone who once lived in her heart, it's overwhelming. The memories return, not to torment, but to strengthen. They are no longer just two young people torn apart by fate. They are two souls, shaped by pain, finding their way back to stand together against the lies that have ruled their lives. Spencer is no longer the impulsive heir, and Trina is no longer the dreamy art student. They have changed, hurt more deeply, grown stronger, sharper, and their bond is no longer just about love, but the merging of two once broken spirits seeking to complete each other. Every word from Spencer cuts through the emotional armor Trina built to protect herself. And every look from Trina reminds Spencer that no matter how far he went, his heart has always belonged to her. Their connection needs no loud declarations. It lives in silence, in a glance, in a fleeting touch in a sea of strangers. And from there, they begin to rewrite their story, not as before, but as new people, crafting their fate from the scars of their past. But Trina knows it won't be easy to hold on to each other when the world seems determined to pull them apart. The old powers haven't let go. The enemies remain unseen. And the truth still waits to be exposed. She has brought Spencer back. But in doing so, she has entered a new battle, one from which there is no retreat. And she is ready, not just for love, but for justice, for truth, and for herself. The girl who once thought she was weak is now walking strong through the storm of her life, with Spencer at her side, a living testament to the part of her heart that never gave up. Spencer is returning. Not quietly or meekly, but with the blazing force of a tidal wave of vengeance and reconstruction, poised to engulf the crumbling foundations of the old Cassadine power structure. This is no longer the return of a lost grandson, no longer the image of a young man once torn between love and hatred. This is the fierce resurrection of a completely transformed Spencer. A figure emerging from the shadows of the past with a heart burning with resolve, eyes cold and razor sharp, and a mind sharpened by calculation. He no longer lives within the confines of a predetermined legacy. Spencer has come back to reset the entire power board of his family, every move methodically measured, like a blade slicing deep into the rot at the core of the Cassadine dynasty. His return is not merely a shock on an emotional level, but a true earthquake in the dark and treacherous world of Port Charles politics. A wave of silent realignment is underway, unsettling once confident powers who believed themselves untouchable. Spencer knows full well that his presence, if wielded wisely, could become a lever powerful enough to shatter the current balance, and he doesn't hesitate to use it. He holds secrets capable of threatening the futures of some of the town's most powerful names. And somehow, he has mastered the art of masking his true intentions beneath a haunting, unnerving calm. Laura Spencer, his principled, loving grandmother who spent her life fighting for the light in a world built on manipulation, now stands at a tragic crossroads. On one hand, she can't help but feel relieved and overjoyed that Spencer is alive. But on the other, she sees clearly that his return is not a miracle, it's a warning. Spencer is no longer the innocent grandson she once raised. He is now an independent, dangerous force with personal goals that could unravel everything she has fought to preserve. The question is, can she stop him before things spiral beyond control, or will she be swept into the very storm he's igniting? And then there is Nicholas, father, betrayer, the source of so much of Spencer's pain. His son's return is a living nightmare, forcing him to confront the long-buried consequences of choices he once masked under the guise of necessity. Nicholas can no longer avoid the reckoning. He is no longer the puppet master, but rather the one being controlled by the very son he once thought he could erase from the game. Spencer has not returned to embrace his father, but to demand answers, not just for betrayal, but for the loss, the years spent in darkness without truth, family, or escape. The madness begins as Spencer peels away the masks, awakening the dormant fractures in every person connected to his past. With every word, with every secret he unveils, the portrait of the Cassadine family becomes more warped and sinister. Relationships unravel. Buried truths rise. Old wounds burst open. This eruption is no longer merely a clash between father and son. It has expanded into a full-scale war between past and present, between the former heir and the new, between long-held secrets and truths that can no longer be suppressed. And through it all, Spencer faces his own internal obsession, a torment like he's never known. He is no longer a victim, but neither is he fully a conqueror. He is torn between lingering love for the people who raised him and the fury over what they did. He doesn't know whether he wants revenge or redemption. Only that there is no going back to who he once was. Each night he wakes with the fear that he's becoming the very thing he once despised, a true Cassadine, cold, ruthless, devoid of empathy. Tensions between Spencer and his family are reaching a boiling point. Laura tries desperately to anchor reason, to reconcile the storm. Nicholas flounders between guilt and pride. But none of them can stop the tide that Spencer has set in motion. He walks into boardrooms, family dinners.